Now the spell is broken, and we live again!
Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the fact that we finally got a release date for Gargoyles Remastered, but not only on the Nintendo Switch, it's also coming to Steam, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. But obviously, us being a more Switch-focused channel, we'll be looking at it mostly from that perspective. Now if you're unaware, this is based on a Disney cartoon show named Gargoyles that came out in the 90s. And it's probably one of the all-time best Disney shows to come around, and it actually has quite a cult following. Now, we first heard about this game last year, however we had no idea when it was actually releasing. So today we're going to jump into why I'm so excited about this release and also all the details we got from the release trailer. Just remember as we're doing that to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Now just before we jump into the gaming information, let's do a brief synopsis about what the whole Gargoyles show was about and what made it so iconic. Now as I mentioned earlier, this was a cartoon released by Disney, and it was mostly played as an afternoon cartoon in the Disney block if you had that where you live, or also sometimes as a Saturday morning cartoon. But it basically followed a clan of living gargoyles that came from the medieval Scottish Highlands and that acted as the protectors of Castle Wyvern. Now these gargoyles basically turn to stone during the day and come alive as soon as the sun drops. However, they are betrayed by the humans that they are trying to protect, and they are cursed to turn to stone permanently. That is till the curse is broken, because 1,000 years in the future, a billionaire named David Xanatos basically manages to break the curse by lifting the castle above the clouds. And he does so by relocating the castle brick by brick above his New York skyscraper. Now, awakening in modern-day Manhattan, the gargoyles that are led by their stoic leader Goliath have to navigate a world that is vastly different from what they knew. And they really grapple at first with the challenge of the modern era, including facing enemies both old and new. At first, that struggle is very intense, however they soon adapt to their new environment, especially due to the bond that they build with an NYPD detective named Eliza Maza. Now from there, the series goes through a lot of twists and turns, and I really don't want to go any deeper into it just in case any of you want to check it out after today's video. But what was really odd from a Disney cartoon is that it really went through a lot of themes of trust, loyalty, and redemption, and was much darker than what you generally saw. And was really about these gargoyles trying to find a new place in the world that actually fears them mostly, however at the same time oddly needs them. The show also had a much deeper and interconnected narrative than you generally saw from your average cartoon of that period, and almost felt like a Western take on an anime storyline. Overall, as I said, we're not going to go any deeper because we're here to talk about the release of the remastered game, but check out Gargoyles, it's an amazing series. Now this game originally came out for the Sega Genesis, and this was right in a time period where Disney was trying to make game versions of a lot of their different properties. And we already have a few of those on the Nintendo Switch, like the Jungle Book, like Lion King, and Aladdin. But what was really different about this one is it wasn't based on a huge movie franchise, but rather a regular cartoon show. And it was also limited to only one platform, as I said earlier, the Sega Genesis. Now I grew up being a Genesis kid. I was a huge fan of Gargoyles when it was actually on TV, so that year, guess what my #1 birthday gift was? Yes, you guessed it, the game version of Gargoyles. Now, as the previous games we mentioned, what was really also odd is that for a game directly marketed to kids, it was actually really difficult. But you know what? It had some really great pixel art, an absolutely amazing soundtrack, and I was finally getting to an age where I could make my way through these difficult games. So I have a lot of fond memories about that original Gargoyles game. And I'm super happy to report that although they're doing a remastered version of the game, you know what? You can actually switch to the original pixel art. And to combat that difficulty curve, we can rewind our gameplay. Trust me, if you jump into this game, that is going to be a lifesaver. Not only that, but the remastered graphics, I can really get behind. Because although, as I said earlier, the original pixel art was beautiful, what I really like about the remastered graphics is they look very close to what we saw in the cartoon show. And since they seem to have kept all the original gameplay elements, well, you know what? This is going to be a match made in heaven, no matter which way you decide to play it. And at this point, we're not going to have to wait much longer because that release date is going to be October 19th. Now, I know October is already jam-packed with game releases, and this is right up against Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but at a much lower price point, this is nonetheless a game that is going to be an awesome one to be picking up, and you know what, you can always also wait for a sale. But that's not all we found out. We also found out that we're getting a physical version of the game that is going to be done by Limited Run Games. And I want to take a few minutes to look at the limited run releases because pre-orders are actually starting today on September 8th and will be running till October 22nd. Now, will there be a general retail release? You know what? There might be, however, we most likely won't find out about it till pre-orders close with limited run games because that's pretty much the way it works. So we'll have to look to the end of October to find out that information. Now, Limited Run Games is going to be selling the games in 3 different packs. Obviously, first we have the basic pack here, which will be $34.99. You basically get the game and a box for it. Look, we're not going to spend too much time on this one. If you want a physical version of the game, you want to spend the least money possible, at least for the moment. This is going to be the one you're going to want to go for. I do want to point out, however, there's actually a physical version being done for Xbox One. It's very rare that we get Xbox versions with limited run games. It's cool to see it here. Now next, we're going to look at what, for me at least, is the sweet spot for this physical release if you really want to be picking it up, and that is the Classic Edition. That'll be $69.99. Now when we're going to look at the Collector's Edition, you'll see why I'm saying that this one is sort of the sweet spot. But basically, in this one, you get the physical release of the game with the original game box that we saw in the normal release. But you're also getting, for me, what are the most interesting physical elements of this release, which is you're getting the steelbook, but you're also getting the white retro plastic VHS box for the game, as well as a VHS tape box. Now, they do specify this is not a real VHS tape, it is just a tape box. At $69.99, it is still a pretty high price to pay for this stuff, but I think if you're a huge fan of the series and you just really want a physical edition that's going to stand out, this one is a really nice one to have. Now that brings us to the big boy, which is the Collector's Edition, that number one is priced at $174.99, which is actually $105 above the Classic Edition that we just looked at. And basically in this edition, you're getting everything we just saw in the Classic Edition. So you're getting that VHS retro clamshell, you're getting the VHS tape box, you're getting the physical release of the game with the normal Switch box, you're getting the Steelbook. But what they're adding in this edition is number one, the limited edition NECA version of the Goliath figurine. They're also adding in an enamel pin, a certificate of authenticity, and a reversible poster. But they're also adding in a huge collector's box that when you open it up, are going to play lines from the voice actor who played Goliath himself. So that is actually a really cool entry. But here's why I'm thinking that this collector's edition, although it's really cool, is maybe not the best pickup overall. Now, let's be honest. The reason why you would want to go for this edition is for the huge box that plays the voice lines and the figurine. I mean, if you're not interested in those 2 elements, the rest of this is definitely not worth the extra $100. But besides that, there's another reason why this edition is maybe not the best pickup overall. It's that the Goliath figurine, although it might not be the exact same Goliath figurine, is available separately from NECA. And if you look at Big Bad Toy Store right now, that figurine is being sold for $35. And NECA actually makes a special video game version with like fake cell shading on it and the coloring that Goliath had in the original Genesis release, and even that one's selling for $41. And at least from what I can see so far from the promotional art, this limited edition Goliath figure looks extremely close to the base edition Goliath figure from NECA. So if we cut out that $35 that the figure is worth at full retail from NECA, that means you're paying like $70 for the box with the voice lines. So now that's really up to you. If you're really into that box, of course, go and pick up the collector's edition. If not, you're just better most likely picking up the classic edition and buying that figurine separately. Like if the reason you want to pick it up is the figurine, you're just better off buying the classic edition and you can pick up both Goliath figurines, the game version and the regular version, for less than you're paying for the collector's edition. Obviously, some people are going to want this edition of the game nonetheless, and more power to you. That's just my 2 cents. But overall, I'm still super hyped for this release. This is going to be the return of a completely amazing classic game, probably one that a lot of people out there did not play. And since I grew up as a Genesis kid, you know what? I completely was in love with this game. I can't wait to dive back in. Now, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about this release? Are you going to just be picking up the digital version? Are you going to be splurging on one of the physical editions? Or are you just going to skip it altogether? As I said earlier, don't forget that if you did like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.